For many years, Leyland and AEC were two big rivals, always trying to outdo each other. They both wanted to build the best trucks and buses in Britain. Their battle wasn't just about selling more vehicles, it was about making them stronger, faster, and better. Leyland was known for building tough, powerful trucks that could carry heavy loads without breaking down. AEC, on the other hand, focused on making smooth, reliable vehicles that were easier to drive. Every time one company made something new, the other tried to make something even better. This is the story of two companies that changed the way Britain moved, all because they wanted to be the best. The birth of two giants. Let's start with Leyland Motors, the strong machine maker. In 1896, a company called Leyland Motors was born. At first, this company made vehicles that ran on steam, but there was an issue. Steam-powered vehicles were slow and needed a lot of water, so they weren't very easy to use. But as technology improved, Leyland switched to petrol and diesel engines, which were stronger and more reliable. By the 1920s, Leyland had become one of the biggest names in truck and bus manufacturing. Their vehicles were known for being strong, long-lasting, and efficient. This made them very popular, especially businesses that needed to transport goods and people. Leyland's reputation grew even more when the British government and the military started using their vehicles. They trusted Leyland's trucks and buses for important jobs, like moving supplies and soldiers. This gave Leyland a powerful position in the industry, helping them become a leader in commercial vehicles. But Leyland was not alone in this race. Another company, AEC, was also making big moves in the world of transport. AEC, the bus and truck expert. The Associated Equipment Company, AEC, was created in 1912 to build buses for London. London needed reliable buses to transport thousands of people every day, and AEC had that job. But AEC didn't stop at buses. They soon expanded into making trucks, or lorries, depending on what you call this vehicle. These lorries were built with great engineering and smart designs. This was the mark that put them among some of the best in the business. During World War I, AEC became even more important. They built a famous truck called the Y-type lorry, which was used by the British Army to carry soldiers and supplies. The war showed how strong and useful AEC's trucks were, and after the war, more companies and businesses wanted to use them. AEC also became an expert in diesel engines. Diesel engines were better than petrol engines because they were stronger, lasted longer, and used less fuel. AEC's clever designs helped make their vehicles even better, and people started trusting them as one of the best vehicle makers. These two companies had one mission. Both Leyland Motors and AEC started with different goals. One focused on making strong trucks and buses, while the other was originally created for London's bus system. But in the end, they both became giants in the world of transport. They changed how people and goods moved, making transportation faster, easier, and more reliable. Their trucks and buses became a common sight on roads across Britain and beyond. And as the years went by, their paths would cross in ways that would change the history of transport forever. How? Let's find out. The golden age of the rivalry, 1920s to 1950s. The battle for the best trucks and buses. During the years between World War I and World War II, Britain's roads were getting busier. More people needed buses to travel, and businesses needed strong trucks to move goods. This meant big opportunities for Leyland Motors and AEC, and both companies fought hard to prove they were the best. They competed fiercely to win important contracts. Cities needed buses for public transport, the government needed military vehicles, and companies needed reliable trucks. Each company wanted to be the top choice. AEC became famous for making buses that were smooth, comfortable, and reliable. Their buses quickly became a favorite in big cities like London, where thousands of people depended on public transport every day. One of AEC's most famous buses was the AEC Regent, a strong and stylish double-decker that ruled London's streets. But the real legend was the AEC Routemaster, which later became the most iconic red bus in London's history. These buses were so well designed that some stayed in service for decades. While AEC focused on buses, they still made powerful trucks that businesses trusted, but their buses were what made them truly stand out. Leyland took a different approach. While they also made buses, they were best known for their heavy-duty lorries, trucks built for strength and endurance. Two of their most powerful trucks were the Leyland Hippo and the Leyland Octopus. These trucks were designed to carry heavy loads over long distances, helping Britain's growing transport industry. Farmers, builders and shipping companies all relied on Leyland's tough machines. Leyland also supplied buses, but their main strength was in making hard-working, no-nonsense trucks that could handle rough roads and heavy cargo. World War II, the rivalry goes to war. When World War II broke out, both companies played a huge role in helping Britain's war effort. They didn't just make buses and trucks anymore, they built military vehicles that became essential for the army. One of AEC's most famous wartime vehicles was the AEC Matador, a strong lorry used to tow artillery guns. This vehicle was tough and reliable, making it a key part of Britain's military operations. On the other hand, Leyland built tank transporters and general-purpose military trucks. Their vehicles helped move tanks, supplies, and soldiers, keeping the British Army well-equipped throughout the war. By the time the war ended, both Leyland and AEC had proven their worth. Their vehicles were not just useful in cities and businesses, but also helped defend the country. This made them even more respected, and after the war, they were ready to grow bigger than ever. The competition between Leyland and AEC was far from over. In fact, it was just getting started. Post-war innovation and expansion, 1950s to 1970s. After World War II, Britain needed to rebuild its cities, roads, and industries. This meant there was a huge demand for strong, reliable lorries. By now, Leyland and AEC were already famous for their war efforts, and now they turned their attention back to making the best commercial vehicles. The 1950s and 1960s became a golden time for British lorry design. Both companies pushed the limits, creating faster, stronger, and more efficient trucks. Let's see the engineering wonder AEC cook. AEC built trucks that were known for their smooth handling and precise engineering. Their vehicles were designed to be fuel-efficient and easy to drive, making them a favorite for long-distance transport. These vehicles were AEC Mammoth Major and AEC Mercury. The AEC Mammoth Major was a true giant of the road. It was built to carry incredibly heavy loads, making it perfect for transporting things like bricks, steel, and machinery. At a time when Britain's motorway system was expanding, this truck helped keep businesses running by moving goods quickly and efficiently. Its powerful engine and sturdy design meant it could handle long journeys without breaking down, even when carrying tons of weight. If you saw a Mammoth Major on the road, you knew it was doing some serious work. Then there was the AEC Mercury, a truck known for being versatile and dependable. Unlike the Mammoth Major, which was mainly used for very heavy loads, the Mercury could be used in many different industries. Some were used in construction, carrying materials like sand and cement, while others helped deliver food and supplies to shops. Because it was smaller and easier to drive, companies loved using it for all sorts of jobs. No matter what needed moving, the Mercury was up to the task. And as for Leyland's, they focused on tough machines. Their trucks were designed to handle rough roads and heavy cargo. This made them ideal for industries that needed tough, no-nonsense vehicles. Let's take a look at the Leyland Beaver and Leyland Comet. The Leyland Beaver was a strong and reliable truck that became very popular in Britain. It was built for long trips, carrying heavy loads across the country. Many transport companies trusted it because it was tough and could keep going for miles without problems. Truck drivers liked the Beaver because it was easy to drive for a big truck and it didn't break down often. It played a big part in moving goods across the UK, helping businesses get their products where they needed to go. The Leyland Comet was different from many other trucks of its time. While some trucks used a lot of fuel, the Comet was designed to be more fuel efficient. This meant that companies could save money on fuel while still carrying heavy loads. Even though it used less fuel, it didn't lose its power. It was strong enough to handle long trips and heavy cargo. Because of this, the Comet became a favorite among business owners who wanted to spend less on fuel but still needed a reliable truck. It showed that trucks could be both powerful and economical, making it an important part of Britain's transport history. New technology changes the game. As the competition grew, both companies started experimenting with new ideas to make their trucks faster, stronger, and more comfortable for drivers. AEC focused on making trucks that were easy to drive and fuel-efficient. Their designs included refined suspension systems which made long journeys smoother, and a better fuel economy, helping businesses save money. Leyland, on the other hand, leaned into raw strength. Their focus was on high-torque engines, perfect for carrying heavy loads over long distances, and rugged durability, making their trucks tougher and more reliable. Drivers take sides. With these different approaches, a rivalry formed not just between the companies, but also among drivers and fleet owners. Some drivers loved AEC's smooth handling and fuel efficiency, making long trips easier. Others swore by Leyland's raw power and strength, believing it was better for carrying heavier loads. This debate made the rivalry even more exciting. Both companies continued to push each other, leading to even more innovation and better trucks. But while Leyland and AEC were busy outdoing each other, a new challenge was about to arrive, one that would change everything. The merger that changed everything, 1962 onward. In 1962, everything changed when Leyland Motors took over AEC. This brought an end to one of Britain's greatest industrial competitions. At first, the takeover didn't seem like a big deal. AEC continued to produce its own vehicles, and its name still appeared on trucks and buses. But behind the scenes, things were changing fast. Leyland wanted to simplify production, which meant AEC's unique engineering style was slowly being absorbed into Leyland's bigger strategy. For some, this was a smart business move. Standardizing parts and designs meant production was cheaper and more efficient. But for others, especially those who loved AEC's precision engineering, it was the beginning of an end not everyone saw coming. Fleet owners and drivers who had once sworn by AEC trucks started to notice differences. Over time, AEC's identity faded, and its once famous name disappeared altogether. While Leyland had become Britain's biggest truck maker, it now faced even bigger challenges. The world was changing, and Britain's once powerful vehicle industry was struggling to keep up. By the 1970s, a new wave of competition arrived from Europe. Truck makers like Volvo, Scania, and Mercedes-Benz were building vehicles that were more fuel-efficient, reliable, and comfortable than many Leyland models. At the same time, other problems made life even harder for British truck manufacturers. Like the government, they made policies that changed the rules on vehicle sizes, emissions, and road regulations, and this forced companies to rethink their designs. Also, there were frequent labor strikes in British factories, causing long delays, which made it harder for Leyland to meet orders. Economic downturns, too, were a huge factor. It made businesses hesitate to buy new trucks, which slowed down sales. As the years went on, Leyland found itself in a fight for survival. The competition was no longer just between Leyland versus AEC. It was coming from across the channel. European companies like Volvo, Scania, and Mercedes-Benz were changing the game, introducing trucks that weren't just powerful, but smarter, sleeker, and far more efficient. These new European models moved effortlessly down the highways, their smooth, aerodynamic shapes cutting through the wind, reducing fuel consumption, and saving money for businesses. Inside, these lorries felt more like a driver's second home. Comfortable seats, better visibility, and soundproofing that made long-haul journeys far less exhausting. In contrast, many of Leyland's trucks still had that old boxy design, built for strength rather than speed or efficiency. Fuel efficiency became a major battleground. While Leyland had always focused on raw power, its engines were often heavier and less refined. European manufacturers were leading the way with advanced diesel technology, designing engines that not only lasted longer but consumed far less fuel. In an industry where every drop of diesel mattered, this was a major advantage. Businesses looking to cut costs began to favor the more economical European trucks, leaving Leyland struggling to keep up. Leyland wasn't blind to these changes. The company pushed to modernize, experimenting with new designs and engine improvements. There were attempts to streamline production, to create vehicles that could match the efficiency of their European rivals. But the transformation wasn't fast enough. By the time Leyland made its move, the market had already begun to shift. Transport companies already made the switch by choosing trucks that were easier to maintain, more comfortable to drive, and cheaper to run. As the years passed, Leyland's empire started to crumble. Some of its most famous truck models were discontinued, and factories were forced to close. By the late 1970s, it was clear that British truck makers were losing the battle. Many British businesses began switching to European brands, and Leyland could no longer dominate the market like it once had. At first, it looked like Leyland had won. But without competition, the company struggled to evolve, and Britain's truck industry slowly declined. As the 1980s approached, one thing was clear. The golden age of Leyland and AEC was over. But what made this rivalry special? The legacy of a great rivalry. The battle between Leyland and AEC wasn't just about selling trucks and buses, it was about two different ways of thinking. AEC stands for precision and efficiency. Their vehicles were carefully engineered, offering smooth handling and fuel economy. While Leyland focused on strength and reliability, their trucks were built to last, handling heavy loads and tough roads without breaking down. This contrast pushed both companies to be better, leading to some of the best lorries and buses Britain had ever seen. Even though they were rivals, their competition helped improve the entire transport industry. Fleet owners, drivers, and passengers all benefited from the constant push for better designs, stronger engines, and more efficient vehicles. Neither Leyland nor AEC exists as an independent company today, but their impact has never faded. Many of their vehicles are still admired, collected, and restored by enthusiasts around the world. At classic vehicle shows, vintage Leyland and AEC lorries continue to turn heads. Their unique designs and historic significance make them prized possessions for collectors. Some of these old machines, built over half a century ago, still run perfectly. That's proof of the quality of their engineering. There are even clubs and societies dedicated to keeping the memories of these brands alive. Fans debate endlessly about which was the better brand. Though the rivalry officially ended in 1962, the spirit of Leyland vs. AEC lives on in the hearts of those who remember the golden age of British transport. And that's a wrap, guys. Wow, what a ride! The battle between Leyland and AEC wasn't just about trucks and buses. It was about British engineering at its best. Smash that like button, drop a comment, and hit subscribe so you don't miss